Welcome to the podcast on ASU 2014-15, Going Concern. For years, there has been diversity in practice on whether, when, and how an entity determines whether there is substantial doubt about the entity's ability to continue as a going concern and how that entity then makes related disclosures. This diversity resulted from U.S. GAAP not containing any guidance about management's responsibility, despite there being long-standing guidance provided to auditors in the U.S. auditing standards. With the issuance of ASU 2014-15 in August of 2014, the FASB hopes to curb that diversity. My name is Jared Silver, and I'm a Senior Manager in KPMG's Department of Professional Practice. And with me today is Andy Zuloff, also a Senior Manager here in the Department of Professional Practice, who has followed this project through the time of final issuance. Over the course of the next several minutes, we'll discuss ASU 2014-15 and how it defines substantial doubt about an entity's ability to continue as a going concern, provides guidance on how management should consider its plans when it identifies conditions or events that raise substantial doubt, and requires certain disclosures if conditions or events raise substantial doubt. Andy, would you mind walking us through the definition of substantial doubt per the new standard?
Certainly, Jared. Substantial doubt exists when it's probable an entity will be unable to meet its obligations as they become due within 1 year after the date the financial statements are issued. The definition of probable in this standard is consistent with that in Topic 450, which defines probable as likely to occur.
Thanks, Andy. So, how is the new standard going to change the preparation of the financial statements by preparers, and what does management now need to consider?
Well, under this new standard, in connection with preparing financial statements for each annual and interim reporting period, an entity's management shall evaluate whether there are conditions and events, considered in the aggregate, that raise substantial doubt about an entity's ability to continue as a going concern within 1 year after the date that the financial statements are issued. Required annual and interim going concern assessments that extend 12 months from the financial statement issuance date result in the need for a rolling 12-month evaluation, updated at each reporting date. Consequently, entities likely will need to implement new or formalize existing processes and controls to support that ongoing assessment. However, the implementation and ongoing cost and effort generally would be lower for financially healthy entities, as the FASB acknowledged that the level of analysis for management's evaluation may vary depending on an entity's facts and circumstances. For example, a detailed analysis may not be necessary if an entity has a history of profitable operations, ready access to financial resources, and no significant near-term obligations in excess of its available liquid funds. In other cases, a more detailed analysis of the entity's financial condition and expected ongoing liquidity may be necessary.
Thanks, Andy. That does make sense. Now, for management's evaluation, what should it be based on per the new standard?
Good question. Management's evaluation shall be based on relevant conditions and events that are known and reasonably knowable at the date that the financial statements are issued. The term known is used in other topics, such as Topic 275, Risk and Uncertainties. The term reasonably knowable was added to emphasize that the entity should make a reasonable effort to identify conditions and events without undue cost and effort. For example, a sharp and significant decline in broader economic conditions subsequent to the issuance of the financial statements may be a condition that was not reasonably knowable at the financial statement issuance date. However, an entity's estimated operating losses for the upcoming look-forward period is a condition that likely is reasonably knowable as of the assessment date. When making its initial assessment of whether there is substantial doubt, management should only consider plans that have been fully implemented as of the assessment date. That concept is different than those plans that have only been approved as of the assessment date. For example, an entity that has successfully completed a debt refinancing before the financial statements are issued would consider that plan fully implemented and may conclude that there is no indication of substantial doubt. Contrast that with an entity that has approval from the Finance Committee to pursue a refinancing and has only begun negotiations with the third-party lending institution. That plan would not be considered fully implemented. Accordingly, the second entity may first conclude that substantial doubt has been initially raised and then would evaluate whether the planned refinancing alleviates that substantial doubt.
Thanks, Andy. Sounds like a lot of these items are things management has probably considered in the past, but maybe never fully documented. Now, let's expand on the example you just explained. What happens if management has concluded substantial doubt exists, but develops plans to mitigate that risk?
In those situations, the mitigating effect of management's plans can overcome a substantial doubt conclusion if two conditions are met. First, it is probable that the plans can be effectively implemented within the assessment period, and second, it is probable those plans will mitigate the conditions that raise substantial doubt. In the basis for conclusions, the FASB introduced guidance emphasizing that management's plans often should be approved before the date the financial statements are issued, to further highlight the probability of effective implementation. The FASB elected to include this guidance in the standard to ensure that management does not place undue emphasis on potential mitigating effect of plans that are not probable of success.
Interesting. Andy, are there any examples or information for preparers to consider when making their assessment?
Yes, Jared, there are. The standard provides examples of management plans and the types of information management should consider in making the evaluation, some of which are highlighted at the bottom of this slide. Demonstrating probable implementation can be challenging when the success of management's plans is dependent on events occurring outside of management's control. For example, renegotiation of financing arrangements or waiver of covenant violations that have not been finalized at the financial statement issuance date. When evaluating the likelihood of successfully implementing its plans, management should consider whether a counterparty's past actions, periodic refinancing of operating lines, or previous waivers of covenant violations, are indicative of future intentions given current facts and circumstances. In summary, if it is not probable that management's plans can be effectively implemented and mitigate the conditions that raise substantial doubt, those plans cannot be used to overcome substantial doubt about the entity's ability to continue as a going concern.
Thanks, Andy. Are there any new required disclosures under ASU 2014-15?
Well, Jared, it depends on the situation. If after considering management's plans, substantial doubt about an entity's ability to continue as a going concern is not alleviated, depicted on the left of the slide, the entity is required to include a statement in the footnotes indicating that there is substantial doubt about the entity's ability to continue as a going concern and disclose information that enables users of the financial statements to understand all of the following. A, principal conditions or events that raise substantial doubt. B, management's evaluation of the significance of those conditions or events. And C, management's plans that are intended to mitigate the conditions or events that raise substantial doubt. If, after considering management's plans, substantial doubt is alleviated as a result of the consideration of management's plans, depicted on the right in the slide, the entity is required to disclose information very similar to what we just discussed, but without a statement indicating that there is substantial doubt about the entity's ability to continue as a going concern.
Thanks, Andy. In terms of effective date and transition, ASU 2014-15 is effective for annual periods ending after December 15, 2016, and interim periods within annual periods beginning after December 15, 2016. Early application is permitted for annual or interim reporting periods for which the financial statements have not been previously issued. Andy, one question I have been hearing a lot about on this new standard is how does this new standard differ from current auditing standards?
Thanks, Jared. I think we've been hearing that a lot as well. While the guidance in ASU 2014-15 is similar in many respects to the guidance in the auditing standards, differences include a specific definition of substantial doubt, which is not defined in the auditing standards, a requirement to assess going concern risk over a one-year period extending from the financial statement issuance date, compare that to 1 year from the balance sheet date under the auditing standards, and it also includes more specific guidance on evaluating management's plans and disclosure content. We'll briefly explore two of those differences in the next couple of slides. Included on this slide are definitions of substantial doubt under the new accounting standard, AICPA auditing standards, and PCAOB auditing standards. The accounting standard now defines substantial doubt exists when it is probable that the entity will not be able to meet its obligations as they become due. As discussed earlier, the concept of probability is consistent with that in Topic 450, contingencies. The auditing standards, on the other hand, do not define substantial doubt. Instead, the auditor's evaluation of whether substantial doubt exists is qualitative, based on the relevant events and conditions and other considerations set forth in the auditing standards.
Thanks, Andy. Are there any other differences to note?
Jared, we'll talk about one more on this slide, the assessment period. Current auditing standards state that the auditor has a responsibility to evaluate whether there is substantial doubt about the entity's ability to continue as a going concern for a reasonable period of time, not to exceed 1 year beyond the date the financial statements being audited. However, the new accounting standard indicates that management should consider conditions and events within 1 year after the date the financial statements are issued. A graphical depiction of that difference is shown here on this slide. The situation depicted on the slide is one where the balance sheet date is December 31st, 2017. The financial statements are issued on March 31st, 2018. Under current auditing standards, the look-forward period begins at the current balance sheet date of December 31st, 2017, and extends through the subsequent year's balance sheet date of December 31st, 2018. However, under the new accounting standard, management's look-forward period begins on the date the financial statements are issued, March 31st, 2018. That look-forward period extends through March 31st, 2019, a period of 3 months beyond what is required under the current auditing standards.
Thanks, Andy. That is helpful. Do the audit standard setters have plans to address these differences?
Yes, Jared. To address certain frequently asked questions regarding the differences between current auditing standards and accounting guidance contained in ASU 2014-15, the AICPA has taken an interim action by releasing AUC Section 9570. This interpretation does not change the requirements of AUC Section 570, but provides interpretive guidance to auditors of entities that have adopted ASU 2014-15. First, it indicates that the auditor should use the definition of substantial doubt provided in ASU 2014-15. Essentially, the overarching objective is to evaluate compliance with the applicable financial reporting framework. Therefore, if defined in that framework, the auditor should consider that definition. It then indicates that the auditor's assessment of management's going concern evaluation would be for the same period of time as required in ASU 2014-15. The interpretation also indicates that the auditor should perform interim review procedures related to management's interim evaluation required under ASU 2014-15. And finally, AUC Section 9570 indicates the auditor's consideration of the adequacy of the related disclosures would be based upon the requirements outlined in ASU 2014-15.
Interesting, Andy. Has the PCAOB taken any similar action?
Well, that's an interesting question, Jared. The PCAOB released Staff Audit Practice Alert number 13, which discusses professional standards applicable to the auditor's evaluation of an entity's ability to continue as a going concern in light of changes to GAAP. However, unlike the more specific guidance in AICPA interpretations, Practice Alert 13 simply says that the requirements of AU Section 341 have not changed and that the auditor still must make a separate evaluation of whether substantial doubt exists under those requirements. Practice 13 states a determination that no disclosure is required under the accounting guidance is not conclusive as to whether an explanatory paragraph is required under the auditing standards. Auditors should make a separate evaluation of the need for disclosure in the auditor's report in accordance with the requirements of AU Section 341. However, KPMG believes that the determination of substantial doubt under AU Section 341 and the new accounting guidance will be similar in practice, and it is generally expected that the application of the accounting guidance would result in conclusions consistent with the applicable auditing standards in most instances, pending further guidance from the PCAOB.
Thanks, Andy. This has all been very helpful. This concludes our podcast. You can find podcasts on other ASUs and accounting topics on the KPMG Financial Reporting Network website. Thank you.